Love, they say, can make you do the unthinkable. And for Adesua, a beautiful, hardworking young woman living in a tiny Lagos apartment with her lover Dan, this was painfully true. She was a student, yet she worked a part-time job just to support herself and him. Adesua would give anything for love. She believed in sacrifice. She believed in loyalty. She believed that giving your heart, time, and attention meant the other person would return it. But today's story will teach you something important. Loving someone deeply does not guarantee they will love you back. And sacrificing everything for a person does not mean they will sacrifice even a little for you. Now, let us enter the world of Adesua, the girl who loved too much, too deeply, too blindly. If Adesua had known that love could break a heart deeper than any broken bone, she might have walked past Dan the first day she met him. But love is blind sometimes. It closes both eyes and ties both hands behind the back. Adesua dragged herself into the small room she shared with Dan. Sweat covered her face, and her legs trembled from standing all day at the restaurant where she worked part-time. Still, she forced a tired smile. Dan was sitting on the bed with a small book on his lap, pretending to read. The moment she entered, he sat up. "Welcome, my love," he said warmly, getting up to collect her bag. "Thank you," she whispered. Today was stressful. Her feet burned. Her head ached. The smell of frying oil clung to her clothes. But when Dan wrapped his arms around her shoulders, her tired heart softened a little. "How was work?" he asked gently. "We had so many customers. I barely sat down," she murmured. Then she rested her head on his shoulder. "Have you eaten?" He shook his head. "No, I waited for you." Those simple words, "I waited for you," fell softly but carried enough warmth to melt away her exhaustion. Their lives were difficult. Their room was tiny. Money vanished as soon as it entered their hands. But somehow, their love made the struggle feel survivable. Then Dan suddenly sat upright, excitement filling his eyes. "Sua, I got news today." Adesua looked up. "Good news?" He nodded slowly, as if afraid the excitement might slip away. "Emeka called. There's a new travel agent helping people go abroad. He said I should try again." Her heart jumped. That dream again. Dan had been talking about traveling abroad for years. To him, traveling was the only door that could lead them out of suffering. Dan. "But we don't have the money," she said softly. He took her hands, his eyes shining with hope so intense it almost blinded reason. "I know, but imagine it, Sua. Imagine if I make it out. You'll never suffer again. I'll give you a good life. I'll take care of you. Everything will change." There was a crack in his voice enough to make her believe him. And because she loved him, she held his dream closer than her own. He squeezed her hands. "I want to try again, but I need your help. Please." Her chest tightened. Her salary wasn't even enough for school fees. She barely ate properly. But she looked at him and saw a future she wanted, a future she was willing to bleed for. "What do you need?" she asked quietly. "Just a little money to start. The first deposit." "How much?" When he told her, her stomach dropped. It was more than everything she earned in months. But she forced a smile. I will try." He kissed her forehead tenderly. "I knew I can always count on you." The following week broke her spirit. She prayed, she calculated, she worried, she searched. No one had money to lend. She considered taking more shifts, but her body was already exhausted. Yet love can make even the strongest person lose sense. She walked into a microfinance bank with trembling hands and signed papers she didn't fully understand. She downloaded loan apps with high interest rates that looked like traps. She agreed to impossible deadlines. All for Dan. When she handed him the money, he gasped. "Sua, this is too much. How did you get all this?" She looked away. "Just go, fulfill your dream." He hugged her tightly. "I promise you, Sua, I will make you proud." 2 days before his departure, Adesua rushed to the market after her shift. Her body screamed for rest, but she pushed on. She picked shirts, sweaters, jackets, everything he might need in the cold. She held each cloth against her chest and smiled, imagining Dan wearing them abroad. Imagining him calling her. Imagining a future where all this sacrifice would make sense. As she crossed the road to board a bus, her phone rang. Dan. "Babe," he said jokingly, "remember to buy something warm. Abroad is freezing, oh." She smiled tiredly. "I already." A loud horn. A sharp screech. Darkness. When Adesua opened her eyes, she was on a hospital bed. Her legs felt like they were burning in boiling water. A nurse rushed to her side. "Please don't move," the nurse said softly. "Your femur and tibia were shattered. You had major surgery." Adesua's breath broke into painful sobs. She tried to sit up, but agony shot through her entire body. Hours later, Dan walked into her room. He did not move close. He did not hold her. He stood by the door, like a stranger. "You're awake," he said quietly. "Dan." "My legs. I'm in pain," she sobbed. He exhaled. "I'm sorry, but I can't stay long. I'm leaving tomorrow." "Leaving?" she whispered. "Tomorrow. Dan, I need you." "I can't miss this opportunity," he said, avoiding her eyes. "Dan, I borrowed all that money. I did everything for you." He shrugged. "My mom and sister will check on you." Then he turned and walked out. Hours passed before the door finally creaked open again. She looked up desperately hoping, praying it was Dan. But it wasn't. It was her mother. Her mother's wrapper was dusty, her steps weak, her eyes swollen from crying. She dropped her small nylon bag and ran straight to Adesua. "My child," she whispered, holding her face. "Why you no tell me life done hard rich like this?" The sound of her mother's voice broke Adesua completely. She cried uncontrollably in her arms. The next morning, her mother made the most painful decision of her life. She sold the only plot of land their family still owned in the village, the same land her late husband had left behind, the land they planned to use to rebuild someday. All of it. Gone. Just to save her daughter. That money paid for Adesua's first surgery, the one that held her broken bones together with rods, plates, and screws. Her mother stayed by her side day and night, feeding her, cleaning her, praying for her. 4 days later, the door opened again. This time, it was Dan's mother and sister, but their faces carried no pity. His sister looked Adesua up and down and scoffed. "So this is her, this disabled girl." Adesua's heart dropped. Dan's mother shook her head as if she was looking at a ruined object. "Let me talk before anybody deceives themselves. Forget anything you think you and Dan have. He can never marry you. You have become a burden." Adesua's voice trembled. "But I borrowed money. I helped him. His sister cut her off sharply. "Who sent you? You think suffering for man means the man go marry you? See yourself now." They exchanged looks of disgust, clicked their tongues, and without one word of comfort, they turned around and walked out of the ward. They never came back. Not once. When Adesua finally left the hospital, she walked with 2 crutches and a mountain of debt. Loan apps called non-stop insults, threats, humiliation. Her photos leaked online. The microfinance bank threatened legal action. Every night she cried into her pillow. One afternoon, her phone rang an international number. Her heart leapt. "Hello?" "It's me," Dan said casually. "Dan!" she cried. "Please, the loan people, they're threatening." "Calm down. I just got a small job. There's no money yet. Don't call this number. I'll call you." "Dan, please." "I said don't call me." The line went dead. He never called again. 3 years passed. 3 years of pain. 3 years of surgeries. 3 years of debt. 3 years of waiting for a man who had moved on. Then one hot afternoon, she heard a rumor Dan was back in Nigeria. With trembling hands, She picked her crutches and dragged herself to his family compound. And there he was, laughing, healthy, comfortable. Beside him sat a white woman, elegant, older, wealthy looking. When she asked, "Who is she?" Dan smiled casually. "Oh, she's just one of our former farm workers." The words hit Adesua like a bullet. He pulled her aside, face cold. "Don't come here again. You are handicapped. Do you think I'll marry someone like you? We are not on the same level." Her heart tore open. She turned and staggered away, tears blurring her vision. A loud honk. A screech. A car almost hit her. The driver rushed out. "Adesua, is that you?" It was Smith, her old classmate. The quiet boy who once admired her. Now a successful man. Her lips trembled. Her legs shook. Her vision blurred. Before she collapsed, Smith ran forward and caught her in his arms. As her world faded, one question echoed. Could anyone repair the damage Dan had left behind? Adesua lay in Smith's arms, trembling, exhausted, and barely able to comprehend what had just happened. For 3 long years, she had lived in pain, death, and betrayal. And now, here was Smith, strong, steady, and somehow, a lifeline she had never dared to hope for. "It's okay, Sua. You're safe now," Smith whispered, holding her tightly as her tears soaked his shirt. She wanted to speak, to explain everything, but the words refused to form. Her heart ached, not just from the accident, but from the memory of Dan, the man she had given everything to, only to be abandoned. Smith gently helped her to sit on the edge of the car he had pulled over. "I'm taking you somewhere safe. Somewhere you can rest and get proper care," he said. Adesua shook her head weakly. I don't want to trouble you." "You're not a trouble, Sua. I've watched you struggle silently for too long. It ends today." Her legs were shaking violently, the pain from her crutches and the accident making every movement a challenge. But she allowed him to lift her carefully into the car, feeling a strange mix of fear and relief. The drive was quiet. Adesua's mind raced. She thought of Dan, of the betrayal, of the money she had borrowed, and the endless harassment from the loan apps. She thought of her mother, who had sacrificed everything for her, selling their only inheritance to help her survive. And now, here was Smith, offering hope. "You don't have to say anything yet," Smith said softly, sensing her thoughts. "Just rest." For the first time in years, she felt her chest unclench. For the first time, someone seemed to care not for what she could give, but for who she was. Smith took her to a private clinic he owned connections with. The doctors examined her carefully. "You've endured a lot," one of them said. "The metal rods and plates did not heal properly. You'll need several more surgeries, and physical therapy will be long and painful." Adesua felt her chest tighten. She had feared this, but hearing it aloud made the weight real. Smith reached out, holding her hand. "We'll do everything. I'll make sure you get the best care. No limits." Tears rolled down her cheeks. I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Just focus on getting better." Over the next few months, Smith became her constant support. He arranged for her surgeries abroad, flying her to a hospital renowned for orthopedic care. The procedures were grueling. The recovery was slow. Adesua spent weeks in bed, her legs in casts, her body weak, but her spirit slowly rekindling. Smith never left her side. He encouraged her during painful physiotherapy sessions. When she wanted to give up, he reminded her of her worth, of the life she deserved. Slowly, she began to walk again, first with crutches, then with confidence, step by step. While she recovered, Smith shared little glimpses of his own life. He had always admired Adesua in school, but had never had the courage to express his feelings. "I watched you quietly," he admitted one evening as they sat in the garden. "Even then, I knew you were special, strong, kind, and beautiful inside and out." Adesua felt a warmth she hadn't felt in years. Her heart, once shattered by betrayal, began to heal. Back in Nigeria, the world continued without her. Dan had returned, flaunting his new life with the white woman he claimed as his wife. Adesua heard rumors of how he treated his family, how the woman demanded obedience and dominance over everyone. The thought of him made her stomach churn, but now she had strength and she would no longer be a victim. Months passed. Adesua's surgeries were complete, her legs fully recovered. She returned to Nigeria a new woman, taller, confident, radiant. Her crutches were gone, her pain was gone. And with Smith's help, she was ready to reclaim her life. The day she returned, she went straight to the neighborhood where Dan lived. She wanted answers, closure, and perhaps a sense of justice. Standing outside, she saw him through the window, older, but not wiser, still arrogant, still careless. Adesua's blood boiled, but she stayed calm. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her rage. She had changed. She was stronger. She was no longer the woman he could trample. Dan spotted her outside. His face froze. "Sua," he whispered, incredulous. "Yes, Dan." "It's me," she said firmly. Her voice was calm, steady, full of authority. He opened the door, stumbling slightly. You think you can just live your life, forgetting me?" she asked. "After everything you put me through?" Dan opened his mouth, but she held up a hand. "Save it! You have nothing to say that matters." The white woman approached, curious. Dan quickly explained. "She was just someone from before." Adesua laughed softly. "From before? You mean the woman you abandoned in the hospital, crippled, in debt, and crying for your help?" The woman's face turned pale. Dan's jaw tightened. He had not expected her to speak, to confront him so openly. "You left me broken," Adesua continued, her voice rising slightly but still controlled. "You took my money, my love, my trust, and left me to suffer. And for what? For a dream that did not include me?" Dan's lips trembled. I didn't care," she finished for him. "Exactly." At that moment, a sleek black car pulled up. Smith stepped out, exuding calm power. He walked beside Adesua, taking her hand lightly, signaling that she was no longer alone. Dan's eyes widened. Fear and regret flickered across his face. "Sua, please, Adesua shook her head. "No, you had your chance. You chose yourself over me. I chose survival, and I chose me." The woman beside Dan gasped. Dan fell silent, tears forming in his eyes. For the first time, he felt what abandonment truly meant. Adesua and Smith turned away. She walked with confidence, no crutches, no pain, no fear. Dan watched them disappear into the distance, powerless to stop her. Back at her new apartment, Smith made her a cup of tea. "You did it," he said. "You faced the past, confronted it, and came out stronger." Adesua smiled, exhaustion and relief mixing together. "I couldn't have done it without you, but I also did it for me." Smith nodded. "You are your own hero now." She looked out the window at the city below. For years, she had been trapped by pain and betrayal. Now, she was free, strong, whole, and finally, ready for happiness. "You know," Smith said quietly, "I've loved you for years. I never stopped, even when you were hurting." Adesua turned to him, a smile spreading across her face. "I think I've always known." He took her hand, and in that moment, all the hurt, all the betrayal, all the years of waiting felt like they had led her here, to strength, to love, to a life rebuilt from nothing. But while Adesua healed and embraced her new life, someone was watching. Dan, humiliated and desperate, was plotting. Could he recover what he had lost, or was it too late? Adesua stood in the sunlight of her new apartment, feeling the warmth on her face for the first time in years, without fear or pain. She no longer needed crutches. Her legs carried her firmly, each step a reminder of the battles she had survived. Beside her, Smith watched her with quiet pride. He had been there through every surgery, every tear, every moment of despair, but now it was time for Adesua to shine on her own. "Are you sure you're ready?" Smith asked gently. She smiled. "I'm ready. I'm done waiting for those who betrayed me. I'm done being weak. It's time to take what's mine: peace, happiness, and my life back." 3 years had passed since Dan abandoned her in that hospital, leaving her to fight death, excruciating pain, and humiliation. Now, Adesua was stronger, more confident, and determined to reclaim not just her dignity, but the power she had unknowingly surrendered to a man who never deserved it. Word had spread quickly in the neighborhood that Adesua had returned. People whispered about the woman who had survived a brutal accident, debt collectors, and betrayal, and had emerged victorious. The same neighbors who had watched her suffer with sympathy, or sometimes with indifference, now looked at her with respect. She walked through the streets tall and composed, no hint of the fear or desperation that had once defined her. Dan, however, had noticed. His ego bruised and pride wounded, he couldn't bear to see Adesua thriving without him. He had returned to Nigeria thinking he could resume his life, flaunt wealth, and ignore the damage he had caused, but the woman he left behind was no longer a victim. He waited one afternoon outside her workplace, hoping to confront her, plead, and perhaps manipulate her back into submission. When Adesua saw him, she felt a pang of old hurt, but it was quickly replaced by anger and clarity. She knew she held the power now. "Adesua," Dan called, stumbling slightly as he tried to appear confident. "Please, we can talk." She stopped, letting him approach but keeping her distance. "Talk? After 3 years, after everything you did to me?" Dan swallowed. I made mistakes. I never stopped thinking about you. I was wrong." Adesua's lips curled into a small, bitter smile. "Wrong? Dan, wrong doesn't even begin to cover it. You left me broken, in debt, in pain, and you didn't care. You chose your dreams over me, and now you come back expecting forgiveness." He reached out, almost pleading. I've changed. I want you back." She shook her head. "No, I'm not the same woman you left behind. I don't belong to people who don't value me. I survived your betrayal, Dan. I survived your abandonment. And I am stronger because of it. You lost me when you walked away, and you will never have me again." At that moment, Smith stepped forward, placing a gentle but firm hand on Adesua's shoulder. His presence was a silent warning. She was no longer alone, and she would not be intimidated. Dan's face turned pale. For the first time, he felt powerless. "Smith, this isn't fair. You can't." Smith's voice was calm but firm. "Adesua doesn't need anyone to fight her battles for her, Dan. But you need to understand that your actions have consequences. You abandoned a woman who loved you, and now she has built a life far better than anything you could offer." Adesua felt a rush of vindication. 3 years of pain, betrayal, and hardship had brought her here to dignity, strength, and justice. She had faced every obstacle and emerged victorious, while Dan had remained the same, selfish, and weak. "You see, Dan," she said softly, "love is not a game. It is not something to be borrowed and discarded. It is not a weapon. You used mine, and it destroyed me. But it also taught me something important. Strength comes from survival. Happiness comes from self-respect. And forgiveness. Forgiveness is mine to give, not yours to demand." Dan could only stare, realizing the weight of his actions. He had lost not just Adesua, but the chance to ever know the depth of love she could offer. Life with Smith was different. Every day, Adesua grew more confident, more independent. Smith never tried to control her. He encouraged her to make decisions, pursue her ambitions, and even start her own small business. With his support, she paid off the remaining debts, cleared her name from all the public humiliation, and slowly reclaimed her independence. The two of them fell deeply in love. not out of desperation, but out of respect, admiration, and the genuine bond they had shared for years, quietly waiting in the background. Smith never rushed her, never pressured her. He simply walked beside her as she healed, letting her strength lead the way. Adesua's mother and family, who had watched her struggle for so long, now saw the woman their daughter had become, resilient, confident, and radiant. Tears of joy and relief flowed freely as they celebrated her recovery and newfound independence. Meanwhile, Dan's life had begun to crumble. His white wife, who had initially seemed perfect to him, grew frustrated with his arrogance, laziness, and the way he treated people around him. He realized too late that wealth and appearance could never replace character or true love. The very family he had tried to manipulate, his mother, sister, and neighbors, began to distance themselves. Rumors of his misdeeds spread, and he found himself isolated, humiliated, and alone. Dan finally understood the lesson he had ignored for years. Betrayal, selfishness, and greed may give temporary satisfaction, but they destroy the soul and leave emptiness in their place. One afternoon, months after Adesua had fully returned to life, she stood beside Smith, looking over the city skyline. Smith turned to her, his hand covering hers. "Suwa," he said softly, "I want to spend my life with you, not because I feel I should, not because of what happened, but because I love you. Truly, completely, and endlessly." Adesua smiled, feeling a warmth that had been absent for so long. "I love you too, Smith, and I know that together we can face anything." Smith pulled her close, and for the first time in years, Adesua felt whole, not broken, not weak, not abandoned. She had survived the worst and had come out stronger, wiser, and ready for a future filled with love and respect. Moral of the story: true strength comes from within. Adesua survived betrayal, accident, and death because she refused to surrender to despair. Strength is built through endurance, patience, and self-belief. Love is not about sacrifice alone. Giving love is beautiful, but giving everything to someone who does not value it can destroy you. Healthy love respects, supports, and honors both partners equally. Dan's abandonment caused immense pain, but it also revealed the limits of his character and the resilience within Adesua. Hardship often clarifies who deserves a place in your life. Forgiveness is for your peace, not for the betrayer. Adesua didn't forgive Dan for him, she moved on for herself, choosing happiness and dignity over resentment. Support and genuine care matter. Smith's quiet, consistent support shows that love grows stronger when it lifts rather than binds. True partners help you rise, not fall. Life balances actions and consequences. Dan's selfishness left him humiliated and alone. Adesua's integrity and perseverance led her to a fulfilling life. Life has a way of rewarding those who endure with courage and punishing those who betray trust. The story ended not with revenge, but with triumph and healing. Adesua had faced the deepest darkness of life and emerged shining, stronger than ever. She had love now, yes, but also respect, freedom, and confidence. The man who had abandoned her was left to confront his own choices. As the sun set over the city, Adesua held Smith's hand, looking forward to a life that was hers to shape. She had learned that love is powerful, but self-respect, resilience, and choosing wisely whom to trust are what truly define a life well lived. And with that, she stepped forward, finally free, finally whole, and ready to live every day on her terms. This is Tales from Motherland. Tell us, would you have gone back to Dan if you were Adesua? Join us next time for another interesting topic. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted whenever we post a new video. See you in our next video. Stay out of trouble. Tales from Motherland cares. Bye for now.